Okay, welcome to the second session of my time in India. And this covers the period from 2004 to 2009, so a period of around 5 years. So let's start with a recap of the first session. So after getting back to India, settling down, I did a few small experiments, which are covered in the previous session, and also started doing a fair amount of adventure travel over the years while I was in India. So in this session, what we will talk about is ECHO in 2006. So as part of my experiments, I'd also joined a company called GISL and being part of the management team. And that was one of the investments that I had made, early stage investments, which didn't turn out very well. And the entrepreneur also ended up being not a very nice person, not meeting his commitments. That also turned me off being an early stage investor. I did try to set up a fund which was supposed to be an early stage fund. And Elon Musk was going to be one of the investors. It was a very small fund, and Elon was doing it just because he knew me well and to help me along in what I was planning to do in India. He didn't know India very much at that point in time, but the idea that something big and earth-shattering could emerge out of India was quite plausible. But when I tried to do the fund, I realized that, look, I'm not really a person who is very good at finding out entrepreneurs, being an early stage investor for them. That's a different skill. And I kind of felt that I didn't have that skill as I explored this. And the whole process of setting up the fund and the person that I was partnering with, I didn't feel we had great chemistry. So I decided to abandon that idea. Now, also, there was this other thing that happened, that while I was setting up this fund, I met Abhishek and Abhinav Sinha, who were two brothers who had done a company in the telecom space, but were now thinking of doing something in the payment space. And they very much wanted me to do the company with them and become the chairman and founder. So finally, we decided to do that. And I took a 20% stake because I was said and agreed to be the chairman and be very actively involved. So I was rolling up my sleeves and being an entrepreneur again. But by now I'd realized that, look, I'm not really a very good CEO. And so Abhishek was going to be the CEO, and I wanted him to have the maximum stake. But I wanted to have a decent stake so that I would have some skin in the game. So this was very exciting, very much similar to PayPal. We used a small company where there was one lady and she had a few programmers, and we turned out a prototype within 90 days of something pretty exciting in the payment space, which would allow people to open accounts and with banks and use those to transfer money across the country and do it with a mobile phone. It could be a feature phone. And we had a very good innovation, which was similar to the random deposit in PayPal, which would make transactions secure. And we also use something in mobile phones called USSD, which was much more superior to SMS and gave us greater control over the transactions and better security. But in our model, our business model, it was a very tough business model because we had to have a bank and we had to have a telecom company, and then we had to be a provider, and all this had to work together. So while the idea was very good, it was pretty innovative, as you'll see later. but getting this whole business model together was quite difficult. And I was somewhat used to the Silicon Valley type of working, where even if you talk to a large company and you were a very small company, you could say that, look, together we can do something great. And you didn't have to, be very subservient to the large company. So, one of the people that we were trying to do a deal with was Airtel, and there was a meeting arranged with a very senior person in Airtel, which Abhishek had gotten with great difficulty through certain people. And in that meeting, I was using more the Silicon Valley type of way, while Airtel was used to having like people who are very small, uh, approach them as if they were, like king of the hill, and that they were doing them favors, but not really truly like a partner wanting to build something big. So that after that meeting, Abhishek was quite annoyed with how that meeting had gone, and we kind of realized that it was not very good for me to be there as a chairman, but it would be better for me to be mentor. So I stopped playing an active role. I sold off some of my stake to Abhishek, and ended up playing a mentorship role. But what I saw was that one of the problems for disruptive innovation in India was that the ecosystem was very difficult, whether it was regulators, whether it was people who wanted to partner and things like that. So having said that, I'm also not 100% sure whether, like in this, that the ecosystem was all bad, because there clearly been very large companies which have emerged out of India, like Paytm, Oyo Rooms, Swiggy, Zomato, etc., just to name a few. But I've still felt that at least in the financial services area, the ecosystem needed a fair bit of improvement, and I decided that I would spend some time trying to see what I could do there. But in the meanwhile, so I, wrote letters to the Prime Minister on how, there could be change, how poverty could end, but I didn't make a lot of headway. In the meanwhile, Echo ended up going through quite a few things, but the model was pretty innovative. It was going to help the unbanked people, the migrant workers. So the World Bank liked it a lot. They brought it onto Bill Gates' radar, who visited Echo and gave it a $2 million grant. Tom Friedman from the Wall Street Journal wrote about Echo. So Echo was quite a big buzz in the US. The FDIC chairperson, Sheila Bair, visited Echo. The Treasury Secretary, Tim Geithner, visited Echo. And all this had been done by Abhishek. So clearly, I felt that he didn't need me as a chief mentor. He was all ready to fly solo. And, so I sort of exited the chief mentor role, and I said, okay, I'm just going to be a minority investor with a small stake in Echo, and I hope you guys do great. So Echo also closed a Series A, where Creation, a Chicago-based venture fund in the social sector, made an investment. And I also met Nitin Chaudhary, who is a chartered accountant and runs a firm called Nitin Chaudhary and Associates. So he was the person who helped us set up all these founder agreements and was the accounting firm that we used. And he became a good friend, and it's like he has been very, very helpful for me in my journey in India. So it's again very important, I think, by doing all these, by trying something, failing at it, um, getting like really good people that you can trust. This becomes quite important for disruptive innovators. So how is Echo doing in 2020? The company still exists, so it's 14 years, and in some ways, though it was in the payment space, like a company like Paytm now is huge. Echo clearly missed the Paytm bus, but that was also because it was focused on trying to do something for the unbanked and for cash, and not so much for the rest of the segments. Now, whether that was a mistake or not is again debatable, but it definitely missed the what could have been done in payments. And there were several other companies, not just Paytm, which did quite well, and Echo started at around the same time as these other payment companies. Now, in the unbanked area, when demonetization was done, that was a big hit. And Echo moved to like an open platform with APIs and tried to pivot on its model, but still stayed pretty true to having a large network of customer service points serving the unbanked and moving fairly large amounts of money and trying to move people from cash to digital. So it made many, many attempts to scale, as you can imagine, in the 14 years. And some of these were becoming quite successful. And before COVID hit, the little investment that I had of around $10,000 could have scaled to about 30 times, and on at least on paper be worth $300,000. But now that COVID-19 has hit, Echo will have to pivot again, and it could really be an existential threat for Echo. Now, like if you look at Abhishek and Abhinav Sinha, they are really true entrepreneurs. They've been at it for 14 years. They've gone through ups and downs and things like that. And how the story will end will be is quite unknown. So sometimes, when you're trying to do something different, when you're trying to change the world, when you're trying to do good, as well as change the world, the path can be very long and very difficult. And how it will end is not certain. But I think if you were to talk to Abhishek and Abhinav, they would say that they did maybe at times find the journey quite frustrating, but they enjoyed it, and they would always look out for their next adventure. They're still young. So even if Echo fails, it will not be something which is terribly bad for them. And who knows, it might be huge at some point in time. And, using disruptive innovation, they might actually do something, which changes the world. Okay, with that, we'll end this session, and the story will continue in the next session. Thank you for listening to me.